Change ahead for Asia. We've got Wayne Arnold here, our Asia markets editor. Wayne, we've got an election coming up in Japan. What are we expecting there?
Well, we'll expect to see Shinzo Abe take a majority in the Diet, and that means he'll usher in, hopefully, an entirely new raft of policies, much more stimulative for the economy, and maybe pull Japan out of its deflationary funk over the last 20 years. Remains to be seen, so we'll look for Sunday. But we do have some pretty important stuff coming up. Shinzo Abe has promised to try to put more pressure on the Bank of Japan, and I think what's happening is the Bank of Japan is going to get ahead of him. And so next week they have a policy decision due, and I think what we might see is them starting to step on the gas a little economically to try to push out of deflation and get some inflation in the economy. Could be weak for the yen, good for stocks.
Okay, and do you think that Abe's rhetoric will be met by long-term action by the BOJ?
Yeah, you know, in April the governor is going to be replaced, so I think that they may change their philosophy. Only to a certain extent, though. One, I don't think that Abe is going to get the kind of majority he needs to really ram through the policies he wants. And even if he did want, I think that we found this, and not just in Japan, but when people become the leaders of their country, oftentimes what they promise, some of the more radical concepts they have, they realize they're a little more impractical to impose once they get into office. And I think in Japan's case, it's very dangerous to push too fast, too hard on the Bank of Japan. What they want to try to avoid is any kind of they don't want to spook the bond market, right? If the yields shoot up in the Japan government bonds market, it could be disaster. It would make Greece look like, you know, a bunion, right?
All right, well, let's hope that doesn't happen. The other election we've got coming up next week is in South Korea.
Yeah, almost forgotten in all this is that a week later we go across the Sea of Japan, we go to Korea, and we've got an election there. It's shaping to be pretty interesting. In a way, some of the policy questions are in reverse. I think there, you know, demographics play a big part. But there we've got the daughter of a former strongman running instead of the son of a former prime minister, as we do in Japan. And if she takes over, there's a question whether she will push on the conglomerates that have dominated the economy. And I think in Korea's case, what's happened is the chaebol, i.e. Samsung, let's just say it out loud. Samsung has become so large, it's now bigger than Korea. It's like an economy unto itself.
20% of the GDP.
Right, and it no longer really employs that many Koreans. It's a global company in the same way that Apple is or IBM or something like that. So I think what the Koreans kind of realize now is that having a cheap won is really helping Samsung, but not necessarily helping Korea. So I think they want to change that. They're looking for a little less inflation, and they're going to get it if they just hold pat, because the rest of the region is now printing money in Japan, printing money in China, printing money in the U.S., printing money in Europe. Korea could get a break. They won't have to do much. And
it's an interesting decision for them. Do you think Korea is ready for a female leader?
Oh, I think so, definitely, yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely.
All right, let's move on to China, the last data point here. FDI due out sometime, maybe this weekend, maybe next week.
Right. In China, we're always looking for any kind of a drumbeat. It shows us what the policymakers are dealing with as they come in. We're in a bit of an interregnum now. We've had sort of the initial phase of the leadership change. Now we're waiting until March. In the meantime, there's going to be this tussle over whether to sort of step on the gas to reduce the pain that they feel or to step on the brakes and try to restructure the economy. Now, FDI will show us sort of what foreign investors think, at least, and they're in a backdrop where dollars are cheap, euros are cheap, money's easy, but the opportunities in China still look a little bit shaky. There is some sign of a rebound in the economy, but the export cycle looking pretty shaky, and we don't know what the policy is going to be. So I think that the downward trend in FDI is going to continue for the meantime, probably until next year we have stronger signals of what the policies are going to be.
That's it. It seems like we're heading into new year, new leadership for all three.
Yeah, all across Asia. I think we're going to have a new leadership, new policies, new slate.
All right, Wayne, thanks so much.
Mm-hmm.